Hi, everybody. Good to be here with you. I want to share with you the Torah that is in my heart today. Somewhat different it is than what I thought I would be sharing when I was planning this session yesterday. Events around the world, in Israel, in Gaza, in our personal lives, they they strike all of us particularly in ways that are particular to each of us. And I really want to honor the way that each of us is individually struck, impressed upon by what happens around us. But what is certainly shared by every human being is that at times, and maybe today is one of those days for you, at times events happen which throw us off, pull the rug. It definitely happens to each of us, time and again. To different degrees, yes, but to all of us nonetheless. And so we can inquire together, what might we do when we lose our center? What can we do when we aren't so sure what to do? What can Jewish mindfulness practice offer us here? I'm continuing to draw from the wisdom of trees. Now, 1 week on from Tu B'Shvat, the new year of the trees. So I'm thinking of the line that every Shabbat across many traditions we say, which is Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Ba. That she, it's referring to Torah in the previous verse, she is a tree of life. For those who machazikim, it's from chazak or chizuk, strength. Torah is a tree of life for those who know how to find strength in her, how to draw strength. And it's an activity. Sometimes we have to work at it harder than others. Sometimes the instability is much more palpable, and we have to be deliberate, patient, and skillful in order to find and stay with and absorb what is steadying. So I want to invite you into practice, into meditation, with trees as our guiding image. Let's explore a few ways that we might find strength and stability and softness and space, even when it's really hard. So we can first bring some attention to the posture, listening to your body and the balance that your body wants to find in the posture. A balance of steadiness and uprightness, a balance of being awake and bright, and also relaxed, gentle. Sometimes just micro adjustments are significant in the posture. Just dropping the chin a little, or opening the chest a little, or recentering the soles of the feet on the floor. Taking your time to feel your way into a supportive posture for practice. Maybe the eyes close. Maybe they just come away from the screen, stay open, but rest with a soft gaze. Somewhere neutral. Either of those, great. The first practice that I want to let the trees teach us today is a practice of rootedness. The top of a tree blows about in a storm, but the trunk and the roots offer stability, even when it's stormy. inviting each of us into our own rootedness here, now. Perhaps we find this rooted quality in the sensations of contact with whatever you're resting on, in the backs of the legs or the bottom, or the feet on the floor, or anything else, in the base of the body which is resting on its support. Maybe you choose a region where you feel this contact with the ground through what you're resting on. And you give your attention here, noticing the sensations, the temperature, the pressure, density or lightness. Not having to do anything to these sensations, this experience, just noticing how it is and how it shifts over time. This giving of attention to the felt senses of contact, of the earth coming up to meet you. It's something you can do, something you can keep doing in the intimacy of your own experience. When you realize attention is lost, that's what happens. You can just return to this steady intention, observing the simple sensations, the rootedness of your contact with what you're resting on. Maybe this is enough for now, just to keep giving attention in this way to not just thinking about, but actually receiving the impressions of the contact with the ground, receiving it into awareness, live. Maybe you sense that there's some quality of rootedness in a different region of the body too, and you want to turn here some, the hands resting in each other or on the legs or wherever they are, the clothes resting on the shoulders. Some sense of there being a resting place here, a kind of clearing or ground in the belly or the arms or the neck or anywhere else. Welcome to tune attention to rootedness as a texture, wherever it seems to be available today, even just 1%, 2%. We take what's available. Another aspect of our experience which can offer us this ground, this rootedness that the trees are teaching us. Another place we can find it is in the shared space of this group. 206 of us sitting here, and maybe more in other places. This shared space, which is something bigger that we can each rest in, root in. Our shared space is something we each participate in, contribute to. And it's something that each of us is also held by. Perhaps allowing yourself to feel, to soak in that being held by the wider space. Maybe there's some holding that you can let go of for now, that you can give to the group. Ah, here you go. You can take this for now. As well as pointing to the earth, trees point also to the sky. As well as teaching us rootedness, they also teach us space. As if with their height, they're saying with the Psalms, lift up your eyes. Remember the space that is here, the sky, the room, trees with their height, and in other ways also with their slowness, their different pace, their different perspective and stoicism, communicating that, oh, there's more room, there's a bigger picture, there's more space than we tend to realize or feel. We feel the space that is here. Physically speaking, we know that more than anything else, what's here, in every atom even, more than anything else, what's here is space. Maybe it's the breath as we notice it, as we sense it, that reminds us of this spaciousness. Breath would not be possible without space. So I'm inviting you to notice the texture of spaciousness, perhaps with the breath, perhaps with a sense of the space around you, the sky above you, perhaps staying in contact with what feels grounding and anchoring as you do this, or just as much as you need to. Inviting body and heart and mind to notice, recognize the space that's here, space of awareness too, in which everything arises and unfolds and in its own time fades. Where is spaciousness available for you? Even just a little bit. There's room for everything in the great space of awareness. Room for whatever's arising to take all the space it needs. Rooted and spacious. As we come toward the end of our practice, I want to share with you a poem excerpted by Mark Nepo. This is called Having Loved Enough. Having loved enough and lost enough, I'm no longer searching, just opening. No longer trying to make sense of pain, but trying to be a soft and sturdy home in which real things can land. So we can talk for a while, but then we must listen, the way rocks listen to the sea. And we can churn at all that goes wrong, but then we must lay all distractions down and water every living seed. And yes, on nights like tonight, I too feel alone. But seldom do I face it squarely enough to see that it's a door into the endless breath that has no breather, into the surf that human shells call God. Thank you, friends, for your practice.
Thank you, Zac, for leading us. It felt so good to just be with the rootedness and the spaciousness, and maybe the paradox of how reaching down into earth can help us reach more widely, help us connect to one another, to all that is even more. So thank you. Thank you. Shortly have an opportunity for Q&A with Zac for those who would like to be in conversation, but first we pause to continue our practice of reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, which we do here at IJS. This is a traditional way of honoring the memory, offering prayer and praise on behalf of those no longer here in body. I want to uplift particularly today the memories of Oded Lipschitz, Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas, and to send comfort to their families and to the extended family and community of Jewish people everywhere, holding them in memory. And I invite you additionally to add in the chat the names of those in your close circles, in your families, in your hearts that you are remembering today. If you would like to unmute so we can hear one another, please feel welcome. And if it's your custom and you're able to rise and you would like to do so, please do. We join together saying Yitkadal,
Amen.
all of those in mourning find comfort as we say. Amen. As always, thank you for your practice. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Harry for all the behind the scenes support with the tech piece. Thank you to Zac for leading us so beautifully. For those who need to be on your way here at the hour, we wish you good health and peace. Hope you'll join us again whenever you are able. And for those who would like to remain here in conversation, we'll just pause for a moment as folks make their way out of the Zoom room, and we'll bring Zac back. I'm going to do my best to moderate in the chat. If you have questions, please pop them into the chat. We'll take a moment and just wait for questions. Zac, I have a question of my own. If it's okay, I want to reference something that you said before we started. And so I'm just going to give a little bit of context. I've been thinking a lot in this time when the sap begins to stir beneath the surface. And then, of course, the sprouts come up, that something precedes our awareness, the physical manifestation or the outward manifestation of something. The stirring begins before we're aware. And right before we started, you said, I prepared something to do today. And then, a new awareness came to me this morning. And so I'm going to go with that. And I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit about how does awareness make itself known to you? How do you touch in with that subtle attunement of knowing, well, I did the work and prepared this thing, but something else is now calling to be spoken? Like, how do you navigate that if you're willing to share a little bit?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It makes me think of what is maybe the foundational practice of our tradition, which is the Shema, that we listen. And that's my practice. There's a kind of simplicity about it, right? You just keep listening. And if you're not sure what to do, you carry on listening. And at some point, some clarity emerges, and then you go with that. Maybe the clarity is you have to decide now. So go with your best guess. Maybe the clarity is you don't have to decide yet, so just keep listening. And over time, something like clarity emerges for me. It's maybe not the kind of clarity that we think about. It's not like, oh, I'm definitely sure now. I can prove it, or I know. It's more like, I know, it lower down. Um, and so, yeah, I planned something. In fact, it was about listening. Maybe I'll get to share it with you one time, you being everybody here. And then the news, as we've said, the hostages coming home, and so tragically, and it was just different. It was just different, a few hours ago when it felt different, and I was thinking, what am I doing now? What's actually helping me now as my heart again breaks? And then I thought, well, let me just offer that. What's actually offering me some comfort, some steadiness, and that's what I tried to do.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for articulating it. It strikes me as you're speaking that there's something simple. It's not quite the right word, but there is something that's like profound in its simplicity, but also very courageous, to be really willing to listen. As you say, lower down. Many of us are well acquainted with the listening that happens up here. And I'm coming to learn just how much mental patterns and conditioning can overpower the listening that we do down below in the body, in the heart. And so I think there's just something of courage which is gathered to be present with what is as it is, to listen into what's arising for me in this moment, what's needed. And I'm grateful for your willingness to do that with us here today.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really relate to Shara. The kind of openness of listening is very connecting, and it's also exposing. I don't know what I'm going to hear. So there's a real courage. And in fact, it's coming around, right? What I wanted to talk about is this beautiful passage in the Torah, in the Book of Kings, the first Book of Kings, where the divine speaks to King Solomon, to Shlomo HaMelech, and says it's this quite remarkable moment. It's like a genie in the bottle moment. It's like it says, "Sha'al ma'eten lach," like ask me, what shall I give you? It's like, what do you want? You have a blank check from God, Solomon. What do you want? And the response is very beautiful. V'natata le'avdecha lev shomea. Grant your servant a listening heart. So really, like you say, right, listening down here. It's like, what does it mean to listen with our heart? And sometimes we find that, oh, we hear the brokenness of the heart, the pain, the uncertainty, and also the beauty and the appreciation and the whole mixture of it all.
Hmm. Part of the work of this season for me is this kind of thawing, in the month of Shvat. Um, and when I think about thawing, there's like something of becoming more sensitive to sensation, which sometimes for me, when listening to the heart, means that I hear something that I'm initially resistant to. There's a misalignment with what I think I'm supposed to do or what I want to do and what the heart is saying. And so maybe there's something in the gentleness of the thaw that invites us to just touch in gently, um, not to overexpose, but to just gently be with and to soften to what we're hearing in the depths of the listening.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's my sense of it is in some way we don't really get to choose where we need to go. It's like there's a kind of opening, a kind of acceptance, a kind of reckoning that is ours to do with who we are, where we are, what's happening. But I do think to at least some extent we get to choose the pacing and the timing. We don't have to force it to be quicker than it's going to be. So I really appreciate what you say there. Like we can go gently. Don't have to throw the doors open more quickly than we're inclined to. And something like rootedness is really helpful for me there. It's like, what's reliable here? What's not melting? What's actually solid that I can really just rest in. And I can keep coming back to that texture just as often as I need to.
Yeah. Coming back to that holding, and also as you named it, kind of going at right pace, um, is a form of compassion practice, compassion for the self. And the more we're able to practice that with ourselves, the more we're able to practice that with the world.
Mm.
I'm realizing I'm taking all the airtime with questions and thoughts. I want to just quickly check the chat, which is active, to make sure that I'm not missing anyone's questions. So I apologize if anyone has asked a question that I've missed while we've been in this discourse. Um, oh, great! Just lots of people uplifting and appreciating what you've shared. So we can carry on. And if there are questions, please feel welcome to drop them here. Oh, wait, a question has just arisen. Laurie asks, thinking of the tree's lessons of solid rootedness and strength, and also flexibility to sway with the wind, it's almost like trees offer us a midah to consider when we should do which, what is the anava or right size in that spectrum, what can we think about or visualize to better understand how and when to be in rigid solidity versus flexible swaying.
Mm.
Mm.
Thank you, Laurie. Firstly, just to underline how helpful it is to put it that way, that there are these textures, right? There's rootedness, there's something solid and firm and trustworthy and reliable and earthy. available in our immediate experience for our attention and our body and our heart to rest on, be held by. And then there's also space. There's also room. There's lightness and air and breath and sky. And yeah, just like anava, just like the how much space am I taking up, right? Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. We can discern what's helpful now. What's helpful now? Would it be a bit more space? Would it be a bit more grounding? And then how can we tell, right? How can we tell which might be helpful? I feel like the most honest thing I can say here, the truest thing in my experience is I don't really know. You know, I'm inside my own experience and I'm just kind of doing the best that I can. That's how I imagine it is for all of us. So I'm here and I'm like, what's going to be helpful right now? Is it rootedness? Is it spaciousness? Is it compassion or joy or connection or holiness or, many textures, many possibilities we can work toward, open to? And I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what's going to be the thing for now, for today. I do come back to listening. So I'm not sure. Let me listen. Let me listen. And I saw someone say in the chat very helpfully, sometimes the first thing that we hear when we listen is the loudest thing. And maybe that's what we need to follow. And maybe it's not. Maybe there's something quieter. So we keep listening. We keep listening. And if we're patient and we're steady and we kind of listen from our anchor, keep some rootedness for the listening, listen perhaps with the whole body, not just with the busy mind. I think that gives us the best chance of catching a scent, right, that leads us on. Oh, I think this will be helpful now. And then we try it out and we see what it does. That's another way. We just play. What happens if I do this? Does that seem to be closing things down? Does that seem to be opening things up? That's a really important litmus test for me, a kind of gauge, like it's sometimes called clinging, the amount of tightness in the system. Is this helping things feel a bit more open, a bit softer, a bit steadier, or is it kind of closing things in? Is everything getting tighter? And if it's going in that direction, I might, I'm not sure. Let me try something else. So there's a few thoughts on that one.
Hmm. I so appreciate the awareness and the comfort in not knowing, and in framing exploration as play, listening as play, trying something, attuning to whether it's the right thing in the moment, and just thinking about the flexibility of sway and the way that our rootedness, our connectedness to earth, to source, is what allows us to actually sway without falling. So just to know our presence in the moment, to know our connectedness gives us the freedom to play, to lean, and to know we're not going to fall. That we're held, and that we can then come back
Amen.
to center and try a different way. What a delight to learn from you. Everything I hoped, anticipated, dreamed it might be. So thankful to you for this time, for your wisdom, for your presence, and thankful to everyone here for your practice, for your participation today. Thank you to everyone. Blessing you up for deep listening, equanimity, groundedness, spaciousness, deep connection with the trees in this waning moon of Shvat. And we will look forward to being together again tomorrow. Be well, everybody. Thank you, Zac. Thank you, Harry. Thank you all. Mhm.